Jason Aldean has a new song out right now, and it is what they call politically charged rhetoric, and he's getting raked over the coals for it by the media.
He released it with this music video that shows a bunch of clips of riots, people spitting in the faces of cops, looting, things like this, and it's condemning all of those things, and it says try that in a small town, basically implying that places with, deeper ties in their community don't allow these things to happen. There's a reason why you see this in cities where everyone is, deracinated and disconnected from a community and politically radicalized. And that was basically his point. And I'm sure he's well aware that he himself is a city boy. He lives in Nashville. That has like 700,000 people in it. He was born in Macon, Georgia. And he doesn't hide that. Like, he named one of his albums after his hometown. Yeah. And it's a city, not a town. But
he growing up, if you've been performing country music for this long, you would have connections to smaller towns. And
he's performed in countless small towns, I'm sure, and is very familiar with
the culture,
the fabric of this country, and what small towns are like. So he released this music video, and on Instagram he said, when you grow up in a small town, it's that unspoken rule of we all have each other's backs and we look out for each other. It feels like somewhere along the way that sense of community and respect has gotten lost. Deep down, we are all ready to get back to that. I hope my new music video helps y'all know that you're not alone in feeling that way. Go check it out.
I'm of two minds whenever I see stuff like this. Okay, because on one hand, look, my goal is eventually there's a small town in Minnesota that I would love to retire to, just far enough outside the city that I don't have to be there if I don't need to, but close enough that if I wanted to go for the day, I could. But on the other hand, being cynical and old now, I always laugh when you see rich artists of any genre, not just country music, say something that feels slightly disconnected from what their actual world experience is.
You said rap artists do that all the time.
There's plenty of rap artists who went to performing arts schools that talk about dealing drugs and all this stuff that they never... there's plenty that actually did live that life, but there's plenty that understand that it's an act. There's a rapper named Rise Hendrix. He's the one who I've shown you those videos. They're called Weird Bars, where it's like a guy, he plays the producer and the rapper, and then he raps, and the whole video is him saying crazy shit that makes the producer go, what the and then there's another one where it's like the beat doesn't match, where he wears a mask, and it's really hardcore gangster rap to like Spice Girls beats or Beethoven. Yeah. But he has a series of videos where he basically talks about, he's like, this is not your life. This is where he performs a song, but you realize that that's not what the artist actually experienced.
Exactly.
And it's like that in country too. I don't think
that really discredits the message of Jason Aldean's song.
I agree.
Honestly. So here's some of the lyrics. Sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk, carjack an old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool? Well, act a fool if you like. Cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough. We'll try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. And I went to the Genius page for this song, and people are annotating this song in a very passive-aggressive way. One of the interpretations of the act a fool if you like lyric said, this is a literary technique called a dog whistle, where Jason uses coded language to garner support without provoking opposition. Here, the use of African-American slang signals the urban-rural divide and can be interpreted in a black versus white lens, allowing the listener to project their racial anxieties. And there are also people saying that this song is about sundown towns. It's ridiculous.
People writing that are telling on themselves.
Yeah. Here are some more tweets reacting to the song. One person said, so many country music artists are absolute frauds, pandering to idiots who don't know any better, talking about Jason Aldean being wealthy and living in a city.
Also, somebody pointed out that that Macon wasn't a small town, it wasn't a big city 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
But it's like, these people would consider country music fans idiot hillbillies, regardless of the message being sold to them. You think of everyone who lives in the middle of the country or in the South as subhuman.
It's one of the reasons...
You would say that anyway.
There's a couple of old shows. There was this is such a weird... I dated a girl who loved this show called Heart of Dixie. starring Rachel Bilson. I hadn't thought about it in ages, but I recently tried watching Black Lightning again with Cress Williams. I love Cress Williams, and he's in that show. And I realized that not that long ago, Hollywood used to be able to portray small town America without it being unbelievably like they could do it and move forward and talk about these places with at least some semblance of respect and love, right? Like the characters in the show are not stereotype pieces of garbage. They're just characters.
Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, well, that was more my speed. But yeah, it wasn't that long ago that they could do that, but now they can't even do that. Everybody has to be portrayed as some type of ridiculous stereotype because the writers no longer have any real world experience outside of their bubble in California.
It's just funny how they think that this song's lyrics talk down to or condescend to its audience and not like an Ice Spice music video. Like if anything, that is showing you like who these rap artists think you are and what you value. Yeah. Material items, flexing, hypersexuality. You know, it's more insulting to the audience than anything I see in this song. Another reaction said, I heard some talk about Jason Aldean's newest song and I had to look up the lyrics. Are we really letting this shit slide in 2023, in current year? Are we really gonna let this slide? Ridiculous.
It's the most generically like good old boy song ever, and you're tearing it down.
Another one said Jason Aldean is just a racist who writes barely concealed songs about lynching. Didn't really get that vibe from the song either.
I also don't understand what about it is about how they're going to shoot you if you try to take their guns. Like the lack of moving forward, the inability to actually engage honestly with someone is shocking.
Yeah, another one said, Chen Watts tweeted, Jason Aldean, who was on stage during the mass shooting at a Las Vegas concert in 2017 that killed 60 people and wounded over 400 more, has recorded a song called Try That in a Small Town about he and his friends who will shoot you if you try to take their guns. You know, if you want to look into some of the sketchy stuff about the Vegas shooting, which is still the biggest mass shooting that's ever happened in this country's history, go down that rabbit hole and report back to me whether you think that that's, you know, confirming your message, confirming your bias or not. Yeah. This song should have just been about the Vegas shooting. Like, how did he get up there with all of those guns without anyone checking him?
I also think that a big part of this is like we live in a culture now where you're no longer allowed to just exist apart from another group. Like everybody has, it's why we talk about stuff becomes homogenized, right? You're not allowed to make music for a distinct group of people with distinct interests anymore. Like it used to be that, you know, rap music appealed to a certain group of people, country music appealed to a certain group of people. I'm from a family where like my brother listened to everything from Kenny Chesney to Bone Thugs, which is where my interest, like in Tupac and all the rap music that I used to listen to Rage Against the Machine and Metallica. Like my brother listened to everything, literally everything, but not all music was necessarily designed to be interesting to everybody. Now, if you don't make something that's so watered down and bland, it's basically nothing, then you're going to be dragged for it by somebody on either side of the aisle, which is a shame. Like you should be allowed to just create for the sake of creating.
Yeah. It's just funny and like kind of disgusting how they're willing to weaponize the Las Vegas shooting.
Well, that is a long, okay.
When like they probably stereotype the fans of country music who were present because they're so radicalized and brainwashed. They would have thought that they deserved that. Yeah. You know, like they don't care about their humanity. It's just when they can weaponize it for a political reason.
And we've seen country music attempt to go more homogenized mainstream lately.
More woke.
Maren Morris,
Kelsey Ballerini, Casey Musgraves. Yeah. These type of people.
Do you think that's part of it's just like, look, a lot of these companies, it is the idea that like, look, there's always a need to find newer and newer audiences, and they feel like eventually your audience is going to die out. It's like what happened with comics, right? They weren't just happy with the 40-year-old white male dentists who could afford comics. They need everyone to be able to want to buy comics, and then by trying to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to nobody, and that seems to be what happens in a lot of cases. faces with stories like this.
Another person said, since people are hating on Jason Aldean already, never forget that he groomed his kids by dressing them in this shit. They posted a picture of his kids wearing shirts that say, "Hidin' from Biden." Yeah, that's totally what constitutes grooming.
I mean, I would rather they didn't post. I would rather people keep their kids out of the political. I wouldn't.
That's fair.
But
these are the people who would say drag shows for kids aren't grooming, but that is. Yeah. I'm not listening.
And to be fair, like I say that, but also like Mini AOC was like my favorite YouTube channel for like the family of the people that pretended to be AOC
in a dark comedy type of way.
Yeah, it was great. So it's like I don't like it when people other than my hypocrisy on that case, I don't like it when people turn their kids into tools for a political agenda. Sure. Also, this is the guy whose wife threw away the Balenciaga very performatively, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But it's like, listen, there's nothing wrong with the message of his song. The message of the song was solid. There was nothing in that song that should be in any way offensive to anybody with a rational working brain.
There was nothing racially divisive about it.
Not at all.
That interpretation is insane. Also, Jason Aldean recently ended a concert early in Connecticut because he had heat stroke. So I guess this is a karma for him.
Well, yeah, he had it coming, right?
He had to reschedule the concert and cut it short after suffering heat stroke on stage. He later said he was doing fine after rushing off stage Saturday with what he described as a combination of dehydration and just heat exhaustion. But he's in the video, he just seemed like a genuine person.
Yeah, well,
I mean, celebrities are prone to doing things performatively and like being partisan, whether it's on the right or left, and I expect that from them at this point. But to get any message from this song other than like, you know, rioting and looting is bad and we should have tighter knit communities, like, you have to be unhinged to take that as, you know, political propaganda or racial propaganda.
It's because they see that anything that doesn't strictly adhere to their city worldview is dangerous and a bad thing. Remember when people were saying that people putting large American flags on the back of their 4x4s was somehow a threat? Did you see those articles?
Yeah,
When they're like, it feels like they're threatening me. I'm like, yes, the big scary flag is very, very threatening.
Another one, like in reference to the Las Vegas shooting, someone who annotated the lyrics on Genius said, Aldean employs irony in his lyrics as he believes he and his small town boys could stop delinquency despite not doing so in 2017.
What does he mean by that?
Like, oh, you didn't stop the Las Vegas shooting.
Oh.
So you're acting tough, but you're not. Like, what? To think that was anything but, like, I mean, not to, like, get too conspiratorial on here, but, like, that was some sketchy, like, Fed type of happening.
Well, not to mention, it wasn't a small town, therefore he couldn't stop it from happening because it wasn't a small town. I find the stuff you found was worse. The stuff you found where they're, like, literally overanalyzing the lyrics and creating their own fantasy world about what this very innocuous country song means. I do one thing that I've noticed lately is, like, so Charles Barkley came out and was like, Bud Light's great, and you people are rednecks and homophobes. And then I see Garth Brooks saying that, but then I see the other side also saying, like, this is bad. Like, nothing's allowed to just exist anymore. And I used to have this idea, it's not an idea, like, it's this notion that, like, the reason why climate change as a political topic is so annoying to me is because now there's no such thing as a singular thing in the world that's allowed to just not be political. Even something as boring as the weather. Like, where now it's like, it's 98 degrees out today, guys. It's hot as hell. And then somebody has to come out and be like, well, that's because the polar ice caps are melting. But whatever, right? Like, you're not allowed to be bored and have just a plain discussion about anything anymore. Yep. Everything has to be looked at through some annoying socio-political lens. And it's stupid, and it's boring, and it's dreary. It's not interesting. It's not inspiring. And all of this stuff just makes my eyes glaze over. It does. Like, if country music isn't allowed to just be country music, first of all, my mom would be rolling over in her grave because my mom loved country. Like, I think it's like my dad loved rock and roll. Like me and my dad would listen to Bob Seger. My mom would listen to country artists like Vince Gill, the Judds, other such artists of the time. And you think about it and you're just like, wow, nothing's allowed to just exist anymore. I have to think about what the hell Garth Brooks thinks about Bud Light. I don't want to. I don't want to think about what somebody who I might agree with on a topic has to think about Bud Light. I don't care.
It's like, even with that song that we called cringy, the 81 million votes my ass song, it's like, sure, you're free to take these things with a grain of salt. Like, if you find it cynical that Jason Aldean living in a big city and being rich and singing about a small town community is hypocritical, listen to it with a grain of salt. But you don't need to like have such a hard on for getting angry about these things.
I do also appreciate like when people like you're allowed to just not like something and go on about your day.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of respect for the people like when I came out here to work who like some people sent messages and were like very upset about that. And other people just quietly decided to unfollow and disagreed. And like, you know what? I that makes me sad, because I'm not a different person than I was before. But I can respect just being like, look, he lives a life. Granted, they don't understand what that means, but they're saying like I disagree with them, therefore I'm just not going to associate. I'd rather people did that than just make a mountain out of every molehill when it comes to stuff like this. It's just very stupid. So thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.